5 minutes, and there are ladies and gentlemen, but I thought the fair way to go would be like the 81st, 82nd, 83rd, and so forth. And it works out pretty well because Jud Gilbert needs to go first. He has to return to Lansing. So I turn the podium over to Jud.
Well, thank you very much, and I want to commend all of you for becoming politically involved and organized. Involvement in organization equals influence, and I think that's been felt at the state and the national level. I know one of the big issues is spending. Last year, the legislature passed a budget without any tax increases. This year, we've got our budgets from the Senate over in the House. We've done it again without any tax increases. So we've tried to live within our means. But there is some area that I think that we need to take a real close look at. The people don't often think as spending. There's a program called the 21st Century Jobs Program. There was an article in the Detroit papers this week about that. The 21st Century Jobs Program, by the way, is what I think the governor based her comment on. In 5 years, you're going to be blown away. And I haven't heard or felt any strong wind as of yet. The 21st Century Jobs Program essentially sold off a future stream of revenue to the state of Michigan, roughly $1 billion at 40 cents on a dollar. So already there's a problem there. It generated about $400 million. The 21st Century Program set up panels that handed this money out in the name of diversifying our economy. It gave it to research projects, it gave it to commercialize ideas already started. It gave it to auto technology, medical science, alternative energy. Even the Detroit news article, when they used the numbers of the MEDC, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, that administered this program, said that it only created 1/3 of the jobs it anticipated. So it has not been a success. But I want to point out to you here tonight that I was one of 3 senators that opposed it. And I think there was a whole bunch of people in the House. I think there were very few no votes in it. Another that is not usually considered spending are tax credits, refundable tax credits. And let me explain what a refundable tax credit is. If you owe the state of Michigan $1 and you have a $10 refundable credit, not only do you not have to pay your $1 to the state of Michigan, the state of Michigan will write you a $9 check out of the general fund. And we've done this to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars over the last several years. I think the one that's most glaringly bad is the film credits. I was on the committee that passed that out, and in honesty, I voted for it originally. I asked the question or made the statement, this will pay for itself. Nobody contradicted me, and I went along and voted for it. But we soon found that this year it's going to cost us $100 million a year from the general treasury. I've had a bill to cap that amount. There's a bill to eliminate it. I think the bill to eliminate it is the even better one. We've done things such as this with the battery credits to electrify the car. We've made $1 billion bet that that's going to work. And many of these I have opposed. Not all of them. Sometimes I supported them because we have other states doing this and we need to get in the game. But we just went way overboard. And why this is important to you, this is your tax dollars going to private entities, local businesses who have been in Michigan for the long term, get nothing off their tax bill. They pay the bill. If you look on the spending side of things, think of some of the things that have been done here lately that deals to try to help us balance the budget. The governor has let out through the parole board many people who have been in prison. If you think about some of this money we're giving to these private companies, we can afford to keep them in prison. So that's what I think, if nothing else, I do, if elected to the State House, remind some of the new people or explain this to them, I think I've done a service. So I'd be happy to open it up to any questions.
Yes, sir. I was kind of curious what the plans are for Michigan to implement something similar to what Arizona's done for securing, securing the borders here. I mean, we're at war with two countries, and our borders are as porous as an ocean sponge. That's ridiculous.
Right. There's been a bill introduced in the House based on the Arizona law. I won't say I read the whole bill, but I did read the bill where the police officers interact with the people suspicious of being illegal immigrants. I saw nothing wrong with it. I talked to some of the lawyers in the Senate. I happened to sit next to a guy that was an ex-state cop. All those bills do is kind of mandate local government to enforce immigration law. There is nothing wrong with those. But it's been introduced.
Okay.
The one thing I would point out, we're far a different situation in Arizona. They have violence, and they, you know, I live in Algonac, and I know they pick up people on occasion.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think the bill's fine. The only caveat I'd give to all of that is, with all the stuff we got going on, do we need all the controversy and diversion at this point? But again, if the bill's before me, I would vote for it.
Okay.
Your thoughts on offshore wind farms?
I'm reluctant to think that any of these alternative energy schemes are going to work. For us to have windmills make a big dent in our you know, energy portfolio, everywhere you're going to look, you're going to find windmills. And I don't believe for a second that's going to happen. I was at a company out here in Port Huron who looked at it, and even the technology for them needs to be improved before they work right. So I don't think that the legislature is ever going to approve this offshore, you know, alternative energy, the windmill type things. And I think what happened down in Louisiana probably has made it all more difficult for something like that to pass the legislature. I'm well aware that a windmill is not like an oil well, but nevertheless, I think already there's a bill to make sure that there's regulations up before we move forward with it. So I guess at this point, I'm reluctant to be in favor of alternative energy as a big change in our system. And I have some questions whether it's wise for us or worth the fight to put it out in the water.
Would you take a pledge to vote against any new tax, any new fees, and any increase in government?
No, I wouldn't.
Why not?
Well, I think you have to maintain some flexibility. I think back to Proposal A.
That's a bad law.
Well, it was better than what we had in the past.
It's masking the problem.
And again, to preclude myself from all options in any circumstances, I'm not prepared to say no to it, no matter what.
Senator Gilbert, I worked in Lansing the last 2 years, and I helped work in the office of Senator Sanborn. And Senate Bill 1226 and 1227 was in my department. And I got to see how much influence the special interests had on the passing of legislation. What are your thoughts on the special interests and how much control they're having?
Well, you're talking about the 1227 just passed.
Yeah.
Well, if special interests would have had their way there, it wouldn't have passed. The MEA put a lot of pressure on that. I was involved with that. 1227 is kind of a reform of the teacher retirement system. It requires that, like many other states have done and like the private sector, that the teachers will pay 3% of their money towards health care, or for current retirees. It also changes the retirement system up front for new employees, so it's less expensive in the long run. The teachers union certainly did not want that to pass. They were adamantly opposed. You even had the superintendents, the administrators had a mixed reaction to it. Some thought it was a good idea, some didn't. So in that particular case, I would argue that the special interests certainly didn't get their way.
Would you favor going to a part-time legislature?
I've sponsored bills to that effect.
How much money would that save our state if we done that?
I don't think, I don't know how much it would. It all depends on how much you reduce the pay. I've jokingly said that if we went to a part-time legislature, how could you tell? But the other point is that I sometimes think that we do things to fill the time. There's legislation that, it's not all that important. We should really focus, I think, on the important things. And that's why I'm not opposed to a part-time legislature.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sure. Is there anyone else here? I've been up front. Has anyone else